Hello, welcome to day one of our exploration of pranayama. Today we are going to be doing diaphragmatic breathing or deep belly breathing and Dirga breath or a three-part breath, sometimes called yogic breath. So this is really the basis of all further pranayama techniques. It's how you would ideally breathe during a yoga practice as well as in the beginning of your pranayama practice. So if you've not yet already, perhaps blow your nose, clear the nasal passages, or if you do practice neti, you can use your neti pot first. Ideally, there'd be a little bit of time between neti and pranayama, a little bit of movement in between. And if you'd like, you are welcome to use nasya oil if you're familiar with it. If you'd like, additionally, to feel comfortable in your tall seat, please grab a folded blanket or some sort of cushion to sit on so the body is as comfortable as it can be. I hope you've done at least a little bit of movement before we've sat down here, so hopefully sitting tall is comfortable for you right now. So what is diaphragmatic breathing? It's that full, deep belly breath that we never take when we're anxious or when we're scared. Typically, we would take our breath in the thoracic region or in the chest, in the rib cage, this general vicinity where we feel the lungs expand. We hear breathe deeply and we think, okay, I'll expand outwards. But thinking of the shape of the lungs have multiple lobes, and we're working with the top lobes and the lower lobes. Usually with the clavicular breath or with the thoracic breathing, we're only in the highest shallow part of the lungs. If you think about if you've ever been anxious or scared, we feel like the breath is kind of stuck up here. For this practice, for this technique, we'll be moving the breath lower. So please be aware of how you're breathing right now. Just sit tall, find your tall, comfortable seat, let your hands rest onto your legs, and without too much modification, maybe you've already changed and that's okay, be aware of where you usually breathe. If someone says deep breath, what space changes in your torso? Do your shoulders raise? Do your collarbones lift? Does the rib cage expand outwards or just forwards? So I'd like for you to think of the breath as a three-dimensional action, because it is. Usually we think of breathing forwards and we hear the cue, breathe forwards into the chest, expand the navel forwards, but really this is happening in a three-dimensional way. We have a wonderful muscle called the diaphragm that kind of looks like a jellyfish when it's at its most relaxed state, when we've exhaled already. So we're not currently holding any breath in. It's in this jellyfish-like dome. As you inhale, the diaphragm moves downwards, creating a vacuum for the breath, taking it first into the upper portion of the chest and then into the lower lobes of the lungs. This is how we feel this expansion into the belly or into the front of the navel. So we'll start to harness that. We'll harness just the navel first, practice that portion because usually that's the most challenging, and then we'll try our three-part breath. All of these videos will kind of have three segments: the explanation at the beginning, our first breath, and maybe the second breath. And the second is usually slightly more advanced or more complicated, or just something to add on from the first breath. So let us play with the breath at the navel. Sitting tall once again, please place your left hand onto your navel. As you breathe in, picture the breath moving down into the upper portion of the lungs, lower portion deeper down, filling the navel. Feel it expand forward, so it does expand through all sides. As you exhale, take a little bit of strength in to release the breath back up and out through the nose. Picture the breath move in through the nose, down into the upper portion of lungs, lower portion down into the navel. And exhale, releases back up and out. Do this a few more times. And it's okay if this doesn't make sense at first, if you're not sure if you're doing it right. Some of these things, many of these things, do take time to notice and to develop change automatically in the body. So please be patient with yourself. Breathing into the navel. And exhale back up and out. When the rest of the body does expand, it's not just an isolation to the navel. We will expand through the whole torso as we breathe. Now, hopefully, and if not, it's okay, we have some semblance of what it feels like to breathe into the navel. And maybe we hadn't experienced that before, maybe you just forgot, or maybe you just hadn't done it in the past 24, 48 hours. So now that we are aware of where that breath moves, try to become more relaxed with the breathing. You're welcome to leave your hand onto the navel or rest the hands back onto the legs. See if we can allow the breath to make no sound. Continue to practice. See if we can find this sensation of breath without exerting so much effort. Maybe it's not as pronounced, and that's okay. Pranayama is an internal technique, something we feel, something we use to make change in the body, not something that we need to see or that someone else needs to be able to see or hear. Now you're welcome to keep practicing just our diaphragmatic, your deep belly breathing, or if you'd like, we can add on the next step. Really, it's more awareness than any advancement in the technique. Our 3-part breath involves first feeling the inhale at the navel, then the rib cage, then the chest. So as I described what happens with the breath before, the way the air moves in, the action seems as though it's coming from the top down, but that action with the diaphragm is really coming from the bottom up. Kind of strange to think about it that way, but either way of picturing the breath, top down, bottom up, I think you will find success with. This is a bit more of a subtle visualization or experience of the breath. Instead of picturing what anatomically respiratory system happens, we're feeling it as energy instead of a physical action. So, hands back onto the legs if you'd like to continue. You're welcome to keep the left hand onto the navel, and you're welcome to take the right hand to the chest. As you inhale, feel the navel expand first, then feel the expansion into the lowest portion of the ribs, then the chest, just up underneath the collarbones. As you exhale, feel the breath release down, heart in, ribs in, navel back. Inhale into navel, rib cage, chest. Exhale back in and down. Navel, rib cage, chest. And back in, chest, rib cage, navel, down. We'll continue with this for a few more rounds. This is one of the most balancing breaths you can take. It does not heat. It does not cool. It simply expands what already is there. Helps bring a sense of calm, a sense of ease. This is safe for everyone to practice. Again, let it be easy. No need to strive or gasp after the breath or push the breath out on exhale. Let it be soft and subtle. And please rest your hands back onto the tops of the legs if they're not already. We can blink the eyes open if they're closed. Ideally, pranayama would be done with the eyes closed, releasing as many of the senses that we can, so our focus does draw inward to the movement of prana, to how we are breathing to affect this energetic shift. Now, this breath is typically safe for everyone to practice. Again, I am not a doctor, I am not a therapist. So please, if this does make you dizzy, maybe there is a little too much oxygen, maybe there's a little bit too much gasping, let it be calm, let it be relaxed. Do not strive after the breath. It might take a little while to get it, for it to start to become automatic. We really don't breathe like this all the time, nor do we need to, but it can bring that act of balancing back into the body, bring a state of calm, and prepare you for meditation, prepare you for additional pranayama techniques. You can practice this in the morning, midday, truly anytime for this one. This is just a deeper version of the breath we usually take every day without thinking about it. So give this one a shot. Maybe practice for 2 minutes, 5 minutes or so. Let me know what you think, and I will see you back tomorrow.